This fall with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order with one absent. Tom's not here.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. The first item on the agenda, Tom Madden, SEH Engineering on the Festina Sewer Project. You're hiding back. I didn't see you.
Wasn't hiding.
Yeah. Sit over there, Tom.
All right, what do we got first to talk about, Ben?
We have two change orders. You want to do that first?
We can do that, or do you want me to give a quick project update?
Why don't you do that?
Let's do that. All right, so the main treatment units have been installed and the contractor's working on piping right now. Anytime we have an underground type project, the most contentious part of the project, of course, is digging an area that we can't see in the ground, right? So we got the tanks installed and didn't find anything weird. Other than we did find some groundwater that is a subject to one of the change orders here. And we do have to take care of that. And it's weird because it's not in the low area. All the groundwater is up in the high area, and we call that perched groundwater. So this is basically a small contained area of groundwater, but if we don't take care of it, the tanks that are up there are empty quite often, which means that they're like a boat, and we don't want that to happen. Other than that, they didn't find any weird soils, no rocks, I mean, nothing else that affects the project. And my point to you guys is that now that we're out of the area that we have the most uncertainty, life is good. Now they're just working on the pipe and all the surface stuff. So I feel really good about where we're at in the project. With regards to change orders, with regards to things that we didn't know anything about. So that is really good. All right. Right now they're working on the piping, and he's working with his steel supplier to get the last structure, which almost looks like a park shelter, right? So what it is concrete slab. It's got the ultraviolet treatment unit on it, and then it's a couple steel columns with a roof on top of it. And other than that, everything's on site. We had a meeting with the Festina Sewer Group last week, I think it was, just to give them a walkthrough of how things are going. We had the manufacturer there. Donnie was there too to kind of give an update on, you know, how this thing might operate and stuff. There's a formal training as part of the project as well, but they just wanted kind of a mid-project update, if you want to call it that. So that went well. And like I said, all the materials are on site, all the parts are on site. They're working on piping, all the main treatment equipment's in. So I know Diana gets a little bit worried about the schedule, but we're going to make it. That's not a problem. And of course, we have a CDBG deadline at the end of September. So that's not an issue. Things are going really well. So.
And later in the agenda, we're going to set a public hearing on the project, and that's a CDBG requirement that when you're like halfway through or so, you have to have a public hearing just to update the public on how it's going, I guess. So
yeah.
So we'll have that. We'll set that public hearing later this month. And by the time we actually have the public hearing, they'll probably be even closer to being done.
Oh yeah, because you have what, at least 2 weeks for notifications, right? Yeah, definitely. So as this project's gone, we do have two change orders today. The first one is an equipment change order for Donnie. That's a pH meter, and he had one. It broke, so he's been borrowing Ocean's now for a while. So we added one in the project, and that change order is $395. And again, it's for a piece of replacement equipment for him. That's change order number one. Do you do these individually, Ben?
We just do them both.
All right. And then number two is for the groundwater issue. It's $6,832, and they end up putting in approximately 100 feet of drain tile, and then another 100 feet of extension to get it out of this area. That includes pea gravel and sock and all that stuff around the drain tile too. So we'll keep the water out of there, and it worked out really well. All the tanks are above where it drains out to, so all the water will be taken down to the bottom of the tank or below. Any questions on that one?
I move to approve the change order. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the change orders. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
All right, everything's going good.
But if you want a sign there where it says.
Excuse me.
Did you want to scan me a copy of that, Ben, or
I'll send you and Diana copies when I.
that'll work? And then I'll get the contractor's signature and I'll give you a fully executed copy for your files. And what we'll do too, because of the DNR involvement on the project, is we'll forward them to the DNR for approval as well, and inclusion in the financing part of it. And we'll be off and running.
Have we got any more information on how much the grant money we're getting will be? Was there?
No, I'm gonna reach out to the WTAF, I think is what it is. I'll reach out to them and see what the status of that is. Again, it's one of those deals where it happens sometimes between the beginning of the project and the end. Nowhere in particular, right? But, so I'll reach out and kind of see what they think the timing might be on that. So, and then what I think I'll do, Ben, is maybe send you just a quick reminder of where we sit today with regards to how the funds are shaking out. And if I learn anything from the state on that loan forgiveness, I'll dump that in there as well. The way that works out, guys, is that you still move forward with your full loan. Let's use round numbers, right? Let's say it's $600,000 a loan and you get a 50%. It's loan forgiveness. So you maintain the full $600,000 loan till the end of the project. And then when you get ready to close it off, they lop half of it off and then reduces your payment. So you stay in the picture as the full $600,000 loan until the end. Then loan forgiveness comes in and away you go. So they'll notify you before the end, but it doesn't take effect until the end. And again, it's not a grant, it's loan forgiveness. And I think they do that just so they know. So if they say, hey, we're gonna give you 50% up to, $400,000, it can be anywhere from $0 to $400,000, depending on what your actual loan amount is that you end up. The way it works out is that when we get a loan from the state, say it's for $600,000, and if there's any kind of change order, something like that, it ends up being $620,000, you still get 50% of the 620 because that's where you ended up at. That's why they don't do it till the end, because they want to know where you're going to end up at. So, yeah. I'll reach out, see if there's any update on that. I'll report that back to Ben. And like I said, otherwise things have been going really good out there.
And in this claim session, it's a payment for the second payment.
Yeah.
So you will approve that when you approve the claim.
Anything else on the project?
Sounds good.
Well, I think when I come here next month, we're going to be done. Right? I mean, we'll be really, really close for sure. Yeah. So it'll be a big step between now and then. All right. If you need me back in between there, let me know and I'll be here.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Everybody have a good week. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
I'll just let you know and to start thinking about, John Anderson reached out to me last week and to remind us that this is year that we'll be negotiating collective bargaining agreements. So the timeline is each of the three unions have to hold a election amongst their membership to decide if they want to continue to have a union. That's the first step. I'll work with our office to get names of all the members and so on that are in the union. And usually, two members from this board, which are currently assigned as Dan and Shirley, meet with John to talk about kind of the timeline and plan, long-term plan. But then a lot of times it's more till December, January before you actually get to the point of talking about the numbers, because you want to know what your budget, how your budget is shaking out. So John did offer that if you'd rather have him come and talk to the full board, you can, but then you have to have it as a closed meeting because it's a strategy for negotiation and you can't have an open meeting. So that's why we've usually kind of stuck with two people to just work with John.
I'm fine with having Shirley and Dan maybe do it since they know background on it.
And you guys were the two,
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a real fun job. You know, that.
With that historic context.
We just think you do a wonderful job.
Yeah. Sure.
Take notes.
I do over there. I'll grab you one.
I'll stay there.
Oh, yeah. There's the 80,000.
Thanks,
What else is on the consent agenda, Ben?
Minutes and claims is all I have on the consent agenda. Need a few more, a while longer to look through the claims. That's okay, or if you want to do it.
Interesting, we have. We have nothing there but an old house.
That you funded that with ARPA money,
Wi-Fi.
put in the Wi-Fi.
This is the monthly charge.
If that's still being paid, ARPA, yeah. They had a few claim sessions ago, had the equipment installed. Now we're getting the first couple of months and then after that, it'll be conservation's expense, but this is still ARPA.
It would seem logical, since we have an IT department, that they would be involved in the IT work within that of public health. Understand why that is segmented and our whole IT expert is out of the loop on that.
I think that some things there are included. I don't know how the division is, but
Anyone like to take action on the consent?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, same sign. There's unanimous.
here's the minutes to sign if you want to pick one of those copies to sign.
They're starting.
Yeah, you can start there.
Yeah, I got one. Okay.
Next on the agenda, Michael, give me your town engineer with some road updates. What do you have for us this morning?
A lot of things kind of just happened this week, since the last meeting. Worked with Nick Risman on Friday, finished, find the annual report. It's due every September 15th. I'm looking to finish it this week. Based off of the help he gave me. Bridge 5, north and south buttons, were poured 2 weeks ago, and looks like beams will likely be set tomorrow. I don't know if they'll finish tomorrow, but they'll start tomorrow. Bridge 208E, same as last week. still working on perhaps mitigation. Frankville Road, all the culverts except culvert 4 are complete. All the new culverts we're putting in. We had, call it out of the blue, Riley's, came in and bid on their, using their crane. And it was a very attractive price, so we are working our schedule, figuring our schedule around their desires there.
Is that road open now? Or?
It is not open. We had just started tearing up the road at the end of last week for culvert 4, so that had just started. But everything had been set up to, except for culvert 4, had been filled in and everything, so you could have potentially driven over if you had a 4-wheel drive type of thing, but we closed everything.
Culvert 4 would be just the first one after the landfill turn off.
Correct.
Yeah, so you can
Yeah,
get to the landfill, but then you go past that and it's the next one.
The special thing about that is it's a very large culvert. It's a 72-inch culvert. It's our largest one in the project, and so it's also very the fill to get to the top of the road is very deep, so it's a challenge in terms of equipment. So that's why it's a big deal.
Do we have some issues with people driving through people's lawns to get around?
It happened a couple weeks ago. I saw that, so on my checks. So
Well, it wouldn't take a week and a half or so.
we're looking at probably 2 weeks here because and they might be able to dig out what they need for culvert 4 this week. If they get that done, they won't get the crane until next week.
Okay,
That's just the timing of things.
yeah.
So they might.
Yeah, I
go
know
on to
TJ
the
said they
small-
got the
Yeah.
excavator, their other one to use to get it dug out.
Yeah, and
So they're hoping this week they can get it all dug out anyway.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to get it all dug out and then get that crane, set it in, and then backfill next week. The target finish date is just before Labor Day weekend, so I'm kind of pushing that a little bit for.
Yeah.
I know that the Frankville Fire Department, they've got their fundraiser going on that weekend, so I'm trying to keep it open for them. W14 ditch projects are ongoing. There's a huge pit, so that's continuing. Bridge 313.
Michael, on W14, have you heard anything on which end of the project they're going to start? The challenge being both city councils are always in contact with me with what's going to happen, and especially because Rendezvous weekend is the last full weekend, which is the 28th. And so if they're starting on the beginning of or middle of September and they start on the Fort end, they'll have Fort all tore up for their biggest on Rendezvous. So
Thank you for making me aware.
they are, that was last Wednesday's topic of conversation at their city council.
And what is their date
28th, 29th
of September?
of September. It's not as impactful on Ridgeway, of course, at the other end. And likewise, the Spillville Water Project may be beginning as early as this week, if not next week. And if they're starting to dig the street and it'll become one-way traffic, the rock pit over there towards Protivin is going to bring a lot of more traffic through Spillville.
Can you refresh me on how long that's supposed to take, that water project?
That water project, I think the street work is about 6 weeks. By the 1st of September, I think. So it might be closed up before they're hauling through there. There was a concern on that specifically with whether or not Origin had taken and set the proper street grades for the curb and gutter with all the survey work that was done by your office.
Mhm.
And I've had 2 conversations with Mike, but he has not heard back from Mark Rugen from Origins to verify, and Daryl Schmidt has also talked with, but I don't know that we have any, we may be 3/10 off. That's the concern. And if they're 3/10 low and that's not a pretty picture down the road.
No, it's not. 3/10 is a lot for the curb and gutter. You're saying that they're going to should be finished September 1.
Well, I believe that was
targeting, hopefully.
That was the targeting date. And that's River City, I think, on that part of it.
So if River City is doing that part of it, they'll have everything figured out because that'll be internal.
But the part is going to be, the concern is going to be if they have the correct grades.
Okay, well, I'll work with Mike on seeing where we're at with that, because I know that that was discussed back in February when I first got.
And I don't have a lot of, I have much more confidence in SEH than I do Origin.
Okay. I've not worked with Origin until I took this position, so I can't really say one way or another on that. But I do know that was discussed actually at the city council meeting. Hay Construction is doing good work on Bridge 313. They mobilized 317A this week. All department meeting on Tuesday to address FEMA claims happened. IT department has a copy of the meeting if you want to view it. Anyone that missed it, I have had nothing but good feedback on that meeting. So
Look, that was pretty positive.
So I want to thank Shirley and Steve for getting the crew warmed up to asking questions, because those questions that the crew asked were really good ones. That was really beneficial to get them involved in that. So thank you.
It's good to see the discussion amongst the crew themselves about,
Yeah.
should we or shouldn't we have, or should I?
Yeah, no, I've had nothing but good feedback from internally anyways. I sent it out to the 6 county engineers to make sure that they're all on the same page. So we'll see if we get further good feedback.
This was declared a state disaster storm.
Yeah, that was always in the works. So whether it was formally or not, I don't keep track of that necessarily. So thank you. Third member of the maintenance shop team is hoping to start August 19th. Nothing's really changed other than the normal paperwork is progressing.
He seems pretty excited about it. Spoke to him this weekend.
Oh, did you? Good, good. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Speed study for Middle Hesper is ongoing. Following through that, got lots of different fires I'm putting in, but that has been progressing. Subdivision is being put as less urgent than the speed study. Phone carriers are still being mulled. I talked to John last week, and he should be getting back to me this week on what we're going to do about it. Canoe Ridge Audit Seal project is expected to start August 20th instead of August 12th. Letters to residents have been sent, email groups updated. The county patching up will allow us to do the patching up to early this week. Construction equipment will be on site for about 2 days. Striping operation will be later. That's all still the same. Equipment manufacturing, equipment malfunction with the diesel pump in Freeport. There's a small leak, siphoning and dripping onto the ground. I'm working with the DNR to resolve what it is we need to do on that. W14 pre-con meeting, likely later this week or early next week with River City Paving. So I will go over that with the Fort stuff with them then. September is the anticipated start for both projects. I don't know what you talked to Mike Wise about, but he was basically telling me this morning that he thinks that River City will be kind of jumping projects instead of doing one and the other. They'll be kind of tactically jumping both on that. They had 2 mobilizations, so they know best what's gonna, save their budget. Summer interns have been a huge help this year. They've been great, and they've kept staff available for the construction activities, and they are going to finish the year up by locating W-42 monuments, survey monuments. And then Ben talked about the union negotiations that I have kind of had a loose conversation with John Anderson about. And then regarding that, in that same vein, I'm gonna update our addendum C to the employee handbook to address some of the scheduling conflicts that I've had so far this year.
Should that be reviewed by our HR consultant like we did the whole handbook? Should that go through?
That's exactly what he's doing. So
I'm updating. I think I'm gonna send a copy of that addendum. It's only, I'll say 3 changes. That I'll probably send over to Andy as soon as I approve what staff is going to do. I'll send that over within the hour.
and then it'll be sent to the HR consultant and included with the handbook when you do that. They've gotten all of the comments on the actual handbook portion. So that Holly is the attorney that's working directly with Andy on that's from the HR consultant, and she's got all of the regular handbook and comments and is getting that all put together, and she's still working with Michael and I think Sean and for some of the addendums for the specific departments that have their own additional policies.
We sent some comments and earlier in the year, and I haven't heard it back. I would presume that they were.
I think most of those were incorporated with the latest
Okay,
revision
okay. They weren't, there was nothing,
major.
yeah, that didn't change policy, really just clean up. So that's what I anticipated. I just haven't seen that come back my way. But yeah, then we were talking about addendum C. The road's pretty, set in policy. Things like, emergency workers' time, how I want that to go forward. And we had issues where we didn't know how overtime is going to work for certain workers. So updating the addendum for those situations is really all we're adding.
Thursday, there's the Turkey Valley Watershed at 1 o'clock at RC&D, and they got first guy is gonna give a talk on-road structures. So I don't know, you can just go online and go on to listen to that or whatever, but he said that's gonna be a big deal. So we've did some of them before, the on-road structures. Really well for ones that
I might touch base with you later and get that information from you.
Yeah.
The meeting minutes, because I don't think it's on my calendar.
Yeah, it's,
I can touch base with you after the meeting.
yeah.
And we have some on-road structures in the Bear Creek watershed have been in place now for 20 years or more. And then newer ones down between Tacor and Calmer in that watershed area built in the last 5 years, basically.
Yeah. So he's first on the agenda, so it'd be great at the beginning, and you can just go online and if you want to listen.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I'd like to push for the
Ross.
secondary road.
Ross said it'd be a real good.
Ross, is it Evelsizer?
Sizer, yeah.
Okay.
So if you just get hold of him too, and you,
Okay.
take it, yeah.
I do want to push something for those structures.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Got a number for him, it's 864-7112.
Okay.
Yeah, so he recommended that I'm going to it, just that we have them for one of the counties that we push them that much. And they worked all that one they did the area south, north of Kilmer, they're absent. We got a new bridge out of it. Got rid of a bridge, was
Mhm.
holding water.
Good. Yeah,
But most of the other counties, the counties get involved with drainage. They're trying to get the water out and we're trying to hold it back. So we basically use a road, a bridge or culvert structure as kind of like a dam, almost to
Dam,
hold
yeah.
back water so it doesn't drain as fast. And so the advantage is that we can get some improvements to that bridge or culvert structure, but then the cost to us is that if it fails, it's our road that fails, not just the
Yeah.
berm or dike in a private property. So
750,000 out of that last project they got, plus we didn't have to replace the bridge, so you put that bridge cost on top of it, so it was.
yeah,
It
that's,
really cost us, any, we actually, got money out of it.
and we've seen it during flooding events in years past, when we had the Bear Creek ones, we noticed that we have fewer flooding damage where those structures have been helping slow the water.
yeah, and the downstream side, absolutely. The issues with them are gonna be, you know, if it's really big, then where's the overtopping, and then, the other issue that I would like to bring up to Ross is just making sure that we're using concrete pipe instead of the corrugated metal, just see how underneath the roads.
Yeah.
So, just have that conversation with them, so.
Yeah, so that's this Thursday, that meeting will be, so if you want to just touch base with.
Yep.
them,
Yep.
He can give you the particulars. Yeah, no, it'd be good. Have 20 minutes, half hour spent on
Yeah,
his presentation.
thank you for making me aware.
Yeah, no problem.
Just for, just a note on the budget. Because the audit seal project is moving to the 20th, there's really no concern, I don't think, taking out the interdepartment loan. So, I think we hit our goal of getting that budget to, I'll call it zero. Yeah.
cash flow, yeah.
So,
It happens, I mean, you have that quite frequently, and maybe 1 in 3 or 4 years where you have a lot of your big expenses, you have your gravel and such, and new equipment that comes in the summer when you're right at the beginning, when your balance is the lowest, and then it takes all year until spring of property tax collections to get caught up again, so we were worried that we were gonna run out of money before we got enough collections in, but
I did put off the new maintainer for Ridgeway Shop. I'm holding it until September. I'm gonna have Ziegler's hold it until September, so that way we pay it in September. I had that meeting this week, so, but I mean, September's gonna,
that's our biggest property tax collection month, so that helps. So
that'll be paid off, and then Canoe Ridge, and then the bridge projects that we have, and then so the pavement maintenance will be paid off.
you don't plan on the reimbursements from FEMA helping the budget anytime soon, because they can take up to 2 years sometimes before we get all that.
And after that meeting on Tuesday, one of the crew members asked a couple of good questions, so I put some extra claims towards the FEMA claims that we'll have. September's, a lot of those funds are going to be used up in September, so that's all I have on that. Any questions?
We rebuilt one of our blades. How's that working? Ready to comment?
I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. I know there was one of the places.
Yeah, we remanded one here. It's gonna be almost 2 years or.
So probably a year and a half.
Honestly, I'd have to talk with, shop and superintendent on that, but I think everything is.
Yeah.
Complaints.
Significant savings over at buying new ones.
Another thing I wanted to bring up that you'll see a couple of roadside uses, that I built for the culvert extensions. The idea being that we never really changed the road, we're just kind of changing the grade around the road. So just, I don't know if that's in your claim session, but that was a payment on that I did this week. Any other questions?
All right, well, I might, let me know on the pre-con meeting for W14, it might be helpful with the meetings that I go to attend with you.
Yeah, I think that you'd be valuable at that for sure.
Just let me know when we're on the calendar.
Just, yeah, you have the beat for that whole area, so that would be good to talk directly to the contractor. I appreciate that. Anything else?
Thank you.
I think so.
No.
Next on the agenda, we have a few miscellaneous items. First of all is the arrangement letter with Hacker Nelson for the audit.
So they sent their standard letter that described the audit and the scope and objectives and their responsibilities and our responsibilities and so on. So just getting prepared for the audit. Usually audit will take place in October or November time frame, but this is just getting prepared for that.
So we need a motion to hire Hacker
Yes,
Nelson.
to approve that.
Move to approve the arrangement with Hacker Nelson on the audit.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second for the arrangement letter with Hacker Nelson for our annual audit. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And I've heard other counties talking, there are more and more of the private firms that are getting out of government auditing. And so we're lucky to have Hacker Nelson still willing to do it because it gets, otherwise, if you have to have the state auditor's office do it, it is a lot more expensive and the timeline it gets pushed out by months because they just are too busy to get to it. So we've been happy to have Hacker Nelson. Especially since then when they have questions, they're just down the block, yeah.
Next up in the miscellaneous, we need to set a public hearing for the Festina Sewer Project CDBG funding.
So I alluded to this when Tom was here earlier. So we just have to, it's one of the requirements of CDBG funding is to have a public hearing for an update on the status of the project. So we've got it penciled in, if you're okay with it, for 10:15 on August 26th.
I motion to set the public hearing.
And it is a resolution.
We have a motion and a second to set the public hearing for the Festina Sewer Project CDBG funding for 10:15 on August 26th. It is a resolution. All those in favor?
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Steve? Aye. Aye also. Passes.
Yeah, so when he finds out what we could get some of the art money back too, what we allotted.
Yeah,
if
I'm hoping so because we spent more on the 911 tower project because we bought more upfront things and we switched from those radios to fiber and we had to pay the fiber up front instead of the radios that were going to be at the end. And so we're actually negative if we have to give all the money to the Festina. So
We had to haul some of the stuff out of the auction site to the landfill.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
added
that
on the
was-
cost a lot.
that was $50,000. Yeah,
Yeah, it was hard to watch them haul that nice black.
but
dirt
dirt
away.
out of there, yeah.
What was the matter with it?
Had broken glass and stuff. Then
They had to go to a landfill.
Old dump site, so. It was just.
Had they known, they could have. Left it, did a deal, left it there when it's on. We've owned this before.
It could have remained on site.
Right. Yeah,
Oh, that would make sense.
yeah,
Build a berm.
Mhm.
but that's either here or there now.
Just lessons.
Yeah.
Next up under the miscellaneous, purchase agreement with Northeast Iowa Community Action for the cement building.
There's no action on this one. I sent this out. Andy had sent out a draft a month ago or so when Tricia was here and talked to you. And so he had sent out a draft. Few people had included, Tricia had a few things she wanted added and corrections and so on. And so Andy sent out a new draft about a week ago. It included basically the substantive changes are he took the discussion of the generator out of the purchase agreement. So if that can all happen after the building is transferred to them, we can decide if we're going to leave the generator and if they're going to pay for it or we're going to move it or whatever. That will be a separate issue. It isn't part of the real estate transfer. So that was the big one. Tricia included some leases to cover the Steve Johnson and at the Historic Preservation Commission office. And so we're going to trade, basically, they're going to stay on our internet service, I think, as their backup because they have another internet service also already there. So we're going to lease that space at no dollar charge. Instead, we're going to leave that connected for them. And then she also sent a draft lease for public health. Basically, if we continue the timeline, we're hoping, and transfer to community action on September 3rd, public health would have till October 1st to move out without charge. And then after that, they would start paying the same $9.75 annual rent per month
Okay.
to community action, same as what we've been charging them. So they would have to rent back space if they can't get out in that extra month. So those were all added to this purchase agreement. You don't have to take action on this purchase agreement. In fact, you can't. It specifically says in the purchase agreement, not till after the public hearing, but I just want to make sure everyone has seen it and knew the details. I have an extra copy, although I did email it out.
They've agreed that CSS will directly.
Yep, CSS is going to directly rent the space that Brenda, our local employee, and I think there's another employee that uses that office some, but she's there basically full time. So CSS will directly lease from community action after the transfer, so we aren't involved. CSS has only agreed to guarantee that till next June because they're still in the middle of their reorganization, but
The districts have been now set, so. And then I did notice that it was equipment integral to the operation of the building, so I presume that was so we could take the generator out of.
yes, we took, and the generator is specifically addressed in one of the lines that it isn't included in that.
Next item under the miscellaneous, we set a public hearing on the proposed sale on the Smith building. Have a date and time for that?
Yeah, so we've, Andy put together a resolution to set the public hearing and public notice that we'll publish. I put in tentatively August 26th at 10:30. So it'll be right after that Festina CDBG public hearing. To hold that public hearing after you've listened to comments or concerns, then after that you could agree to this purchase agreement. And if you do, then sometime probably September 3rd, Andy would work with Dan and I to actually sign the deed and the documents and things.
I motion to set the public hearing, the sale of Smith Building on August 26th at 10:30.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to set the public hearing for the proposed sale of the Smith building for 10:30, August 26th.
And it is a resolution.
Aye.
Aye.
Steve? Aye. I also.
The second page.
Next miscellaneous item, discuss procedure and timeline for hiring a replacement recycling supervisor.
I've got, Shirley had some comments she wanted you guys to see. So I printed that email. This topic, you're really gonna be here. One response I gave to Shirley was in that section where it says required to attend the annual Iowa Recycling Association Conference or other continuing education opportunities. I suggested that you just do recommend attending, something like that. Because I try to go to all of the ISAC events and county auditors events, but if I've got a doctor appointment or something with my family and I miss it, I wouldn't want this person to feel like they're being insubordinate because they didn't go.
I thought you had a very good point on that.
Yep. And Lynn sent out the current job description to you guys after last Monday's meetings. I guess the big thing is
How do we want to move
how
forward?
do we want to move forward? I mean, we're required by policy to put it at least in the newspaper, in the official county newspapers and on our bulletin board. Bulletin board is actually required by state law to post it as the opening on the bulletin board. So, and for 2 weeks, that's the very minimum you can do. Shirley has recommendations here about other recommendations or options or things in her.
I thought it was interesting that Barb suggested after being called as a reference, that the other people are using consultants to find the person for that job. And I think since the whole program was set up and continues to evolve, it's a lot of environmental, legal, liability things going on there. I think we need to make sure we have somebody that is qualified and up to date things. And so maybe an outside consultant would be good. Not for sure. I think we should put together a committee to kind of look at all of that. And I know the one thing that I noticed in the job description, it doesn't necessarily talk about working with like the landfill on the rural waste collection thing. I think that's part of it if we're going to continue to do that. It should be more formalized, and even maybe the transition to that position supervises to take it out of TJ's purview to be the main contact in that.
Taking what out of TJ's?
Well, right now, the rural waste collection, that he's kind of coordinating with that and putting it there, and potentially us doing all of the hauling rather than contracting out to do.
I think TJ made the point when I asked him about that very thing. And TJ said the thing that he can do that they can't do is when he gets a call out in the early morning, he's got a crew that he can pull off and backfill. Whereas they don't have anything like that in the recycling itself. And so he's been able to deal with, one of the monitors being sick or whichever, and then backfilling it the other way and with his crew. So that's worked out well.
But it can still happen that way, but it would just be overseen by the recycling person. And I also think potentially moving the road and coordinate pickups and drop-offs, doing our own hauling to save some money on that.
We could do
That, but it's gonna take a little more organizational coordination. I don't know if PJ has, because he's not in charge of the haulers, so.
But he's not really interested, I think would be a fair statement of adding that to his landfill responsibility.
No, so I'm saying that's why we move it to recycling center part of it. I think it would fit there well. So I do think we should do definitely a search for this position and not just assume we're gonna internally.
Yeah,
somebody.
We did some work with, when we were searching for our county engineer with the search firm, which did not work out well for us. I think my recommendation would be we start with our normal procedures, and if that's always an option that we can add. But
We have no luck down, then we can go that way.
And I mean, there was some interest in getting someone hired sooner opposed to later so that they have more time under Scott, but Scott isn't actually leaving until January.
Yeah.
One, yeah.
We do have time
Yeah.
for this to happen. The people that are there have been somewhat trained in how to run the operation without him being there.
Just go ahead with our normal procedure and
Yeah, it would take us probably a good 6 weeks to come to a decision to begin with, and I would still leave 3 months of transition training time where we are today.
If you want to assign a couple members to work with potentially TJ and Barb
I
or
think
Evan
Evan was
at
suggesting.
the conservation, since they're doing the education end of it, and whoever else you want to include to review the job description and talk about the timeline and so on, and come back to this board, or do you just want to use the current job description and advertise it next week? I mean, that could happen.
I think that might be a little.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and since you guys haven't even had a chance to read what Shirley's put on paper here, I mean, I had it last week, so I got to review this.
I think we should continue discussion when Shirley is here and all of us are here. I would be happy to serve on a subcommittee to look at the job description and get the ideas from Evan and DJ, because they work closely on several issues with that. Rather than just putting it forward as it is, that's for sure.
I think I was thinking an extreme would be to just and go, but I think that's probably a good idea, is to have 2 members of this board work with the others.
Yeah, I would try to keep that committee small and not large.
Yeah,
So it can only be 2 of us, and then
TJ should be
TJ
involved.
and I think Evan should be involved since he's still in the educational aspect of it.
And maybe even Scott will have some ideas, and you may want to, whether he's involved in the committee or at least the committee talks with him some, just to know exactly his timeline, because I know he had some medical issues and things he was working on.
so if we get
I
a
think
new director out there, can the education move back to recycling?
The director is interested in that as part of their,
Yeah, I would recommend Island. That way that money goes back to where it should be. Just like.
I think it would be, yeah, I'm not so opposed to that either, but I think it would be a good idea to put this back on the agenda for next week. That way we can go over this and the other one and come together with some ideas, and if we're gonna form a board, we can pick up which names and kind of go forward from there. I think it would be fair to ask Scott to, if he has any input. He might find something that he thinks should be required that isn't on there right now, so.
likewise, Evan tends to be very knowledgeable about the industry. And I think TJ also has, working with him on the rural waste pickup, has a lot of ideas about it too. So I think it's worked well for the recycling to go, or the appliance recycling to go back there.
Back to,
Recycling.
yeah, recycle.
The appliance recycling go back to recycling, but contracting out for the land.
Yeah, we already have that.
yeah,
I know.
he's saying that works well.
It has worked out, yeah.
That changed, and I think there's lots of new things in the industry that potentially could save us more money.
When we had Terry there, he served on the landfill board as the secretary, so there was like this innate built-in communication between the two entities, so, you know, we're trying to replicate that with just them working together, but that was something that was quite handy.
I don't think TJ wants to give up his
No,
front office person to do that.
no, I don't think so either. I'm just saying
That
that.
would not go over well.
Anyway, it'll be on the agenda next.
I'll put it on for next week and you can work through it and it'll be on for several weeks, you know, as
Yeah,
you get.
because I know Shirley potentially could join virtually next week. She would be back following. She said, so.
And Doug Drew sent us, something here for the full board dairy site, which was approved by the Board of Supervisors on 9/26/22. Is required by the Iowa DNR to republish a public notice review matrix and submit a recommendation by 9/6/24 to resources. So that is something.
So, yeah, so that's, I had alluded to this during the public hearing on the rezoning issue, that this is to the permit from the DNR for the digester. And so the public comments, you're required to put a public notice in, which Doug is already,
Yes.
has already done, and that establishes the date. So the public can get comments either directly to the DNR or give them to Doug, but then Doug needs them with enough time to get them to the DNR by September 6th.
They aren't changing nothing at their physical site.
No.
This is basically
That's
just
just-
reapproving their previous. or,
Yeah, they aren't changing their numbers of animals or their, they didn't
Nothing.
file anything different on them, a new management plan. All they're doing at this point is getting approval for the construction of the digester. And so you aren't required to hold a public hearing or anything like that.
This is
Can.
It's just a recommendation.
Yeah, so it's the public comment. The important thing for the public to know is that comments need to get to the DNR if they want to make comments, because otherwise the DNR isn't going to know what happened. And they don't get a report, listen to the public hearing on the zoning issue. They are only considering this a separate issue, so.
But we could set a public hearing.
We always set a public hearing, on almost anything.
And we don't decide whether it's gonna happen or not.
But like one of the members of the public at the public hearing stated that because you have the construction evaluation resolution, which is the master matrix program adopted in the county, you do have standing, is what that person reminded me. So you can make a comment as on the board's behalf, or if the master matrix scoring, you can review that, and if you think there's something wrong with it, you can recommend.
Question.
Yeah.
Question.
Detail on the DNR meeting, what time and what place?
It's not a meeting. It's not a meeting. The DNR needs all comments by September 6th. So if you send them directly and they get them by September 6th, or if you get them to Doug Drew, I would say no later than the day before, because he needs time to turn around and get them to the DNR. Then they can consider those comments when they're doing whatever their process is for approval. And they don't hold a public hearing or anything. They just do it internally. Yeah.
I understand.
And is there a particular case number on that needs to be?
Didn't see it.
Oh, I think you would just reference the full board dairy site.
All right. Community service building update. I have not heard anything back from DHS yet. If I don't by the end of the week, I will get back a hold of Nicole.
Loaded up another load of crap stuff that was in the back shed this morning, cleaning out, just old shelving, that's just some old boards, cleaning it out so we got more of them back there.
What do they do?
Take it to Sweeney's to the auction. That's next Tuesday, so they have to have it there this week. There's stuff at the DHS building and maybe Krista's got some stuff too, they're moving it, just get rid of stuff they don't want or need.
That goes on public auction then?
Yeah,
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
We used to hold, it's been probably 10 years ago or so, that the
They have
county
one.
had their own auction once a year.
Yeah,
We found, generally speaking, we found that most of the people who came to those were looking at the equipment that the road department. And when it came to
that odds.
desks or file cabinets or shelving, it was pretty much, we were giving it away. I mean, it was, there weren't really,
Paying because we had to pay.
we had to pay the auctioneer to sell it and, yeah, and weren't getting, and then the end of the auction day would come and the road crew had to spend the next day cleaning up because there was a bunch of stuff that people didn't want. It just sat there.
It cost us more than we ever got.
Yeah, so, you know, it's good that they've arranged now to take them to Sweeney's. And for the most part, when the county's selling something, you need to hold some sort of auction setting. You can't just make a deal with somebody because you don't know if someone else was willing to offer more or wanted it too, so.
Can't have a garage sale.
Yes, exactly. You can't have a garage sale. That's very, very apt description. So if there are counties that have tried to do that where they put things they don't want and sell and they can get in trouble for that.
Yes.
We had talked about looking into with the electrician, what the actual cost of rewiring was of that, like $17,000 to move that generator. How much of that was the wiring part of it as compared to the actual generator itself?
But I think it was by memory, Mark, it seems like it's about in the range of 13,000 to 15,000.
Was the wiring
The
part.
wiring part and conduit and wire and labor and all
Like
that
moving the generator, hooking it up
was
was,
minor.
Yeah.
Did you just?
But you gotta do all that wiring to hook the generator and stuff.
yeah, so I was gonna say, we, either
mean,
way,
the
we'd
whole-
have to do that if we're gonna.
Yeah, it still costs you $20,000 to do
But
it.
we had also then talked about doing battery instead of,
Yeah,
There's a couple options.
Yeah, there is.
And there's that generator from 911 that might be a better if you're,
for the whole building.
yeah, might be
Might
something
be
to consider.
easier too, at least to.
May or may not be large enough, so that John was going to get an evaluation of that building as a whole. And then it did come up that FEMA meeting, that there may be another pot of state funds that we could pull from to see if we could get a grant to pay for an emergency generator at that building if we used it as an emergency center. Not as necessarily a warming center or something like that, because the Red Cross has access through the EMA department
Center.
at the new building at Fairgrounds. And there is Tuesday at 3 o'clock energy audit from Alliant at the CMB building with one of the energy
So Shirley
contractors.
did get a hold of you.
Yeah, I met with Phil and he's gonna be there. I'll meet him at some.
That's tomorrow?
No, next Tuesday,
Next Tuesday.
23. So I'll pursue that with him. John is trying to move forward with the lighting change that we already have, because that's probably a 1 year payoff.
yeah, like that, or 1.5.
Yeah, it won't be much, but it's well worth it in the long run.
Is there any committee reports?
Historic preservation met here on Saturday morning. They had a rather quick meeting. There is an interesting thing coming up. There's probably going to be a Dvorak concert at the Beely Clocks in Spillville, I think October 12th, with the music department from, they're coming up to do a kind of historic thing with Dvorak there, because Dvorak did live upstairs in the Beely Clock building. So that will be, once they know that the 12th appears to be the date, I'm not exactly sure yet on the time. But they're working, the historic's working on the rest of getting more of their books out and circulated, their little pamphlets, and working on the barn survey is going to take probably not published until 26, by the time they go through everything associated with that.
Public health. Wednesday, and then that Cookie Valley watershed on Thursday over at Postville or C&D. That's what I got to see on that on-road structure.
The public health is going, because if they wait until September 3rd to start the moving process, there's no way they're gonna get done in a month. I doubt it.
Well, we're not until we,
Yeah.
no,
So we find out.
So I think you guys would know as soon as you hear from DHS, so that Mark can coordinate with public health so they can start some of that process, especially since John Halverson has the 2 summer help people that are students that are gonna go back to school, but he could utilize them to carry and move stuff.
And we have to build a wall in between possible DHS space and the public health space.
it's virtually impossible if they're going to move by
Yeah.
even October 1, because
Definitely don't want to start the building process of the wall until we.
No, for
that
sure.
That's gonna be
And
able
we
to
don't
be
have-
utilized the way we hope it is.
she's already started with brand new desks and everything else that she's already purchased and put into the building over there. Which is, how many departments get new desks? Ben?
I've had the same one since I started. I was there when I. Yeah,
You haven't worn out yet.
yeah.
And we have-
Center there.
and we have an entirely furnished office there, and we're not moving, but we have brand new desks, including a reception desk, already been delivered.
5 figures they spent on money that
5 figures on furniture.
didn't need to be spent.
That is
Absolutely.
that is not a good thing.
Well, we should have her here to defend that.
There's
Yes,
nothing there. to
There's no
defend.
defense on
Well,
on that.
there may be,
That's, it's down there. I sit on the board. We don't even see it.
Yeah.
So.
Just a thought, county conservation. We don't have anybody sitting on that board. Can we appoint somebody?
Yes.
Because
You
that
can.
would be very interesting to be in. I mean,
There
for
are
a
a
simple thing, we can bring back what's going on.
lot of counties have, like you do public health, you have a board member that sits on it. A lot of counties have a board member as one of the conservation, although I don't know about the process, if you want to increase the size of the conservation board to add a supervisor, or you want to wait until there's another opening to put a supervisor in. That's 2 different processes. So there presumably is one coming up. There's usually one every year at the end of the calendar year. So that would be a time when you could consider just appointing one of your members. If you think you want to increase the size of the conservation board by 1 so that you can appoint someone in addition to the 5 that are on there, that would be a different question. You better talk to Andy.
Okay. I just think it would be beneficial. That way we get updates a little bit more often.
Well, we have
What
budget,
conservation's trying
we
to
have budget
do.
responsibility over a quasi-independent board, and without any representation, we don't have any real basis to understand what's going on. The state law makes the provision that we can have 1 member of the Board of Supervisors on every quasi-independent board, meaning public health, veterans, and conservation. Those 3 boards, we have the authority to put one of our board members on there.
And the only one we don't
Is,
conservation.
You don't have,
we don't
have to be a
but you'd have to be a member of the Veterans Commission, you have to be a veteran.
veteran.
Yeah, so-
veteran.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
definitely make it a little tough.
Yeah.
It's just food for thought.
Yeah.
And if want to go that route.
Yeah, usually
The end of the year when the
when
time
it's not, when it's up anyway, that would be,
bring it back up for discussion, then makes sense.
I did have a message, different subject. I did have a message from one of the local Rotary Club members. They're having their truck run ATV event where they take people out on the trail. Encouraging if Board of Supervisors, if they haven't been, the Board of Ludwig invited us individually to it. You can take a ride if you haven't seen the whole trail. I think it would be good.
When is that?
It's She said Tuesday, 8:30. At the fish hatchery. For board members. If you want, so choose to go.
Tomorrow?
It looks like it will be tomorrow. She didn't put a date on that. It's amazing trail if you haven't seen the whole thing. There's a reason a lot of people don't ride it. With electric bikes now, it's a lot easier.
How long is the trip?
It's about 11.5 miles, I think.
And January 2nd, 26 is the next expiring position on conservation.
Well, there should be one January 25, isn't there? So there's one,
January 25.
Okay, yeah.
Every year on January 2nd.
Yeah. There's one each year. And so usually in mid-November or so, we start advertising for interested community members to apply for the different boards and commissions. And so then usually by mid-December, you have those appointments made so that come January's meetings there, you have the new members. So that would be a time where you could get someone from this board on there without changing the structure.
I think that's probably.
That may be easy.
You don't need to increase board sizes. That's, we have when we get a
Then you
board
have
too
to
large,
increase it by
it's
2
unwieldy.
to make it.
To keep it odd, yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and second for adjournment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that little issue of the grades over there, that'd be important. In Philadelphia. Thank you very much. You get because 310 on. And the gutters are too low. Yeah. That's not a pretty good. So, see, licensing and last week about it.
And it sounds like
This is how it should be.
if there's anyone at Paul, it's the Billville's engineering firm. We're not coordinating with these.
Exactly.
Because it sounds like River City Paving has already been talking with our engineering department, so they know. And
I know.
so I don't remember the name of that firm. Yeah.
I'm not really impressed with the person. I went to the pre-con meeting and I've attended all of them. Obviously, I haven't attended all the meetings. That's not, I think SEH does. He's always.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it seems to go a lot smoother with Tom.
It makes a lot of sense for, it's only $300 whatever, but to purchase that pH monitor under the construction project, because then if you get the loan forgiveness at 50%, you get the state paid half of it.
Pretty smart.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, they could have just went and bought it on their own, but then they would sell their money.
I was thinking, I'll tell you.
Got your water in. Ready to-
Stellar evaluation.
We want to go back friends, Mark. You ready to go?
And she just got her last
Probably a little crazy.
Yeah, the Olympics.
I should have been there for the,
game.
yeah, we're the other end of the country, so the events.
Yeah, you're all the way.
One.